Silent seniors no more. Somebody has to stand up. Why residents stay quiet and why some finally stop. Before we start, a quick note. I am not an attorney and I am not giving legal advice. This podcast simply shares real experiences, public documents, and the Florida statutes that affect residents living in mobile home parks. The goal of Silent Seniors No More is to help people understand what is happening in their communities and encourage them to ask questions. For legal advice, always speak to a qualified attorney. People keep asking me the same question. Why are you doing this? Why put out a podcast like this? Why file a lawsuit? Why challenge people with money, influence, attorneys, and control over the place you live? And honestly, I understand why people ask, because most people wouldn't do it, especially in a retirement community. Most people just want peace. They want to enjoy their homes, their routines, their neighbors, their final chapters of life without stress or conflict. And that's exactly why many residents stay silent. Not because they don't see problems, because they're afraid. The fear nobody talks about. If you've ever lived in a mobile home park community, you may not understand the pressure that can exist. Your landlord isn't just your landlord. They often control the land under your home, the amenities, the recreation facilities, inspections, approvals, rules, violations, and sometimes even the social atmosphere itself. So when residents begin speaking publicly about concerns, people notice. And quietly, many begin asking themselves, will I be next? That fear is real. Even when nobody says it directly, you can feel it. You can hear it after meetings, in the parking lots, in whispers outside the clubhouse. People say things like, I agree with you, but don't use my name. Or, be careful. Or maybe the most common, you're right, but I can't get involved. And the truth is, I understand why they feel that way. This was never about one person. What surprises some people is this. This was never really about me. This didn't begin because I wanted attention. It began because residents kept telling the same kinds of stories. Stories about inconsistent enforcement, fear of retaliation, silence from the agencies, confusion about Florida Statute Chapter 723, and the feeling that residents have rights on paper, but nobody willing to enforce them. That's the part many people outside these communities just don't understand. A law without enforcement eventually becomes little more than a suggestion. And residents across Florida continue running into the same question. Who actually protects us? Because many residents are learning something frustrating. The agencies that oversee Chapter 723 often say they do not have the authority to truly enforce many of these disputes. And when residents hear that over and over again, many just stop trying. Little by little. When I first started speaking up, only a couple of people stood beside me publicly. Most supported quietly. Some disappeared completely. Others became nervous. And honestly, I really didn't blame them. People are trying to protect their homes and their peace. But something interesting has started happening little by little. More residents are beginning to ask questions. More people are realizing maybe I'm not the only one seeing this. And that matters. Because silence survives when people believe they are not alone. Since residents realize others are experiencing similar concerns, the fear begins to crack. This community still matters to me. And I also want residents to understand something clearly. Despite everything that has happened, I still care deeply about this community. I I still believe residents deserve activities, social events, gathering places, and opportunities to bring people together. I'm still willing to help organize events, support projects, and contribute positively any way I legally and appropriately can. But many of the things I previously helped with became difficult or impossible because of restrictions or bans placed on me by management. And that's unfortunate because when resident involvement is discouraged instead of encouraged, the entire community loses something. This should never be about stopping residents from coming together. It should be about finding ways for communities to work better for everyone. Why this fight matters? Some people think this is about winning an argument. It's not. It is about Florida residents living under Chapter 723 actually having meaningful protections, or whether those protections exist only on paper. Because if no one is willing to challenge the system, nothing changes. Not for this park, not for the next one, not for the seniors moving into these communities 5 years from now. And maybe that's the hard truth of all. Real changes almost always begins with uncomfortable people asking uncomfortable questions. The fact of the effort. I do, and they've asked me, do I enjoy conflict? No. Would I rather this never become necessary? Absolutely. But at some point, you either decide to stay quiet or you decide future residents deserve better. And if helping push the real enforcement of Florida Statute Chapter 723, meaning becoming the face of this effort and becoming the face of this effort, then yes, I'm willing to do it. Not because I think I'm important, because someone has to stand up first. This episode is not just about one park. It's about a question being asked quietly across Florida. What happens when residents feel that they have rights, but nowhere to turn when those rights are ignored? And how many seniors stay silent simply because they are afraid of what speaking up could cost them? If you've experienced something similar in your community, please share your story. Questions, observations, and concerns can always be left in the comments for review, because silence is exactly what allows these patterns to continue. And this is Silent Seniors No More.